Now, I'm not saying that any of these 10 movies are going to be courting Academy Awards anytime soon, but each just might be primed to surprise audiences and overperform, either landing critical acclaim or unexpected box office success, or perhaps even both. So if you thought these doomed movies were all out for their count, well, that might not quite be the case. Because I am Gareth, this is What Culture, and here are 10 doomed upcoming movies that might actually succeed. Number 10, The First Omen. There's an understandably instinctive reaction to roll your eyes at the prospect of a prequel to Richard Donner's fantastic 1976 horror classic The Omen. When producers can find nothing worthwhile to do with a franchise, the prequel route typically signifies the creatively bankrupt next step. Add to this a director and team of writers with few major credits to their names, and it's easy to write this off as a cynical cash-in desperately trying to coast to box office glory on the strength of its brand name alone. But then the first trailer for The First Omen dropped, and there was a collective air of surprise among horror fans that it honestly looked not bad, pretty good even. The visuals look suitably ominous and the cast is unexpectedly stacked, including Bill Nighy, Ralph Ineson, Sonia Braga, and Servant alum Nell Tiger-Free, enough that this could very well be a rare horror prequel to carve out a worthy place for itself. It's still worth tempering your expectations, of course, but in the very least, this may not be the artless obligation its original announcement suggested. What upcoming horror movie are you most excited about? You let me know in the comment section down below, baby! Number 9, Ballerina. On paper, a John Wick spin-off starring Ana de Armas as a ballerina assassin sounds freaking awesome, but Lionsgate recently delayed the film an entire year to June 2025, no matter that principal photography wrapped way back in February 2022. Rumors soon began doing the rounds that the film was a mess, and that the studio was planning to reshoot the vast majority of it, hence the year-long delay. Couple this with star Ian McShane flat out stating that the movie wasn't good enough in its current state, and it's easy to be incredibly skeptical about the project, especially with Underworld's Len Wiseman directing, whose filmography consists of almost wall-to-wall duds. There is a glimmer of hope though, given that the extensive reshoots are being overseen by Chad Stahelski, who has directed all 4 mainline John Wick movies to date. Given that Stahelski is said to be working on additional action sequences for the film, his keen eye for gorgeous, crunchy set pieces just might shape Ballerina into something actually worth watching. Number 8, Coyote vs. Acme. No upcoming movie is more bleakly doomed than Coyote vs. Acme, because unlike every other entry on this list, there's a distinct possibility we never end up seeing it. The live-action animated hybrid rocks the irresistible premise of Wile E. Coyote taking legal action against the Acme Corporation because their faulty products constantly prevent him from catching Roadrunner. Shooting on the James Gunn-produced comedy was completed in May 2022, but last November Warner Bros. Announced that they were planning to shelve the film's release in order to claim a $30 million tax write-off instead, as part of the company's wider spate of desperate cost-cutting measures. The move was met with widespread outrage from fans and filmmakers alike, and though Warner Bros. Did later consider selling the film to various streaming services, none of them reportedly met the company's asking price. Back in February, star Will Forte confirmed that it seemed like fans wouldn't ever get to see the film, which has had consistently enthusiastic responses from test screenings, though that thankfully wasn't quite the end of the road. At the recent Oscars ceremony, screenwriter Sammy Birch stated that the discussion about Coyote vs. Acme's fate was actually still ongoing, indicating the possibility that it may eventually be released. Here's to keeping fingers, toes, and everything else crossed for it to avoid being confined to the ether. Number 7, Unfrosted, the PopTart story. It was tough not to groan when Netflix announced that they were making a movie based on the origin of the humble Pop-Tart. In an era where Hollywood is industriously producing a spate of corporate biopics nobody really asked for, was even a single solitary soul in the market for a Pop-Tart movie? Even with the great Jerry Seinfeld serving as writer-director, implying a treatment splitting the difference between comedy and drama, it was tough to muster much enthusiasm at all for this. That was until Seinfeld clarified that the film wasn't actually actually a factual account of the PopTart's invention, but rather a totally made-up origin story inspired by a monologue about the breakfast pastry from his 2020 Netflix stand-up special 23 Hours to Kill. Basically, this is going to be less like Air and more like Weird the Al Yankovic Story, a self-aware parody of the biopic genre, packed with half-truths and straight-up lies that evidently has little interest in being taken seriously, and thank God. Number 6. Beetle Juice. There are many more reasons why Tim Burton's decades gestating Beetle Juice sequel will be a train wreck than a success. First of all, how many genuinely good belated comedy sequels can you actually name? Secondly, Burton's late career output has been hugely underwhelming for the most part, so there's every possibility this will be yet another instance of the filmmaker operating on autopilot. That said, Burton's sheer commitment to getting this project going is encouraging. He stuck at it for the better part of 3 decades, and in interviews has spoken about a back-to-basics production, eschewing the CGI excess which has defined his recent works, in favour of practical puppetry and tangible set design. Beyond that, a recent test screening reportedly went down well, the first trailer didn't look half bad, and for what little a co-star praising their own movie is worth, Michael Keaton has seen it and said it's great. While few sensible folk are expecting a film on par with the original, a solid follow-up would be a major win for a film many thought would never actually happen. With star of the moment Jenna Ortega playing Lydia Deet's daughter Astrid, there's even a not insignificant chance it'll actually make decent bank at the box office too. Cheers for checking out this video today, folks. Hit that subscribe button down below for more What Culture in your hopefully not doomed life. Number 5. The Garfield Movie. Many had their pitchforks out for the Garfield movie before a single frame had been revealed, because Chris Pratt's casting as the voice of everyone's favourite lasagna-loving feline just seemed like an incredibly lazy, unimaginative choice. Beyond the fact that Pratt currently voices numerous prominent pop culture characters, namely Mario, it's the fact that his vocal delivery in the trailer doesn't remotely match the signature dry, sarcastic wit expected of Garfield. The thing is, this trailer otherwise looks totally fine. It's skewing super broad with its humour, sure, but it looks completely watchable. And given the enduring popularity of Garfield, there's a good chance that's enough to make it a box office success. After all, its target audience, that is very young children, couldn't give a damn that Garfield doesn't have the same vocal tenor or line delivery that he used to. And so, just as all the hand-wringing over Pratt's casting as Mario proved to be completely inconsequential to its reception, the same will likely be true of the Garfield movie, even if there were certainly far more inspired choices out there. Number 4. Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. Much like Beetle Juice, the 4th Beverly Hills Cop movie immediately invites skepticism, simply because it's been so damn long since the last movie, an entire 30 years in fact. More to the point, the infamously terrible Beverly Hills Cop 3 indicated there wasn't much juice left in these here limes, and that the franchise was better left put to bed. After literally decades of trying to get it made though, Beverly Hills Cop Axel F wrapped shooting in early 2023, with a release date set for this July 3rd. Now, the fact that a Beverly Hills Cop sequel is foregoing a theatrical bow in favour of a Netflix exclusive release is enough for many to make declarations about its quality, as well as the streamer clearly being petrified of just calling the damn thing Beverly Hills Cop 4. Oh, and this is filmmaker Mark Malloy's directorial debut as well. Talk about being thrown in at the deep end. But you know what? The trailer actually doesn't look half bad. At the very least, almost every major cast member from the previous films is back in some form, and it does seem to be scratching that nostalgic itch. You'd still be crazy to raise your expectations high for this, but the claims of it being a guaranteed dud at least seem rather overblown. Number 3. The Way of the Wind. The great Terrence Malick has never been one to make films quickly, but even with that in mind, the post-production process for his new film, The Way of the Wind, has been extreme. It's been common for infamous perfectionist Malick to spend years editing his films, the most egregious example to date being 2017's Song to Song, which premiered some 4.5 years after shooting started. But Malick's new film has smashed past that record, as the biblical drama began filming way back in July 2019, with reports indicating that the movie won't be ready to premiere until at least the Venice Film Festival in September. It'll be well over 5 years before any audiences get eyes on it. Given the rather inconsistent quality of Malick's output over the last decade plus, you can't really blame folk for seeing this as an indication that Malick has struggled to make sense of the film in editing, and the result may ultimately be a chaotic mess. Then again, there's certainly a willingness among Malik's passionate fanbase to let him cook. And if anyone can deliver a truly visionary biblical drama unlike anything we've seen before, it's surely him. And let's be honest, the fact that Mark Rylance is playing 4 different versions of Satan throughout the film is enough to keep the hopes for its quality alive. Number 2, Borderlands. It can't be understated just how much negative publicity has swirled around Eli Roth's adaptation of the hit video game series Borderlands. From Kevin Hart's controversial casting as Roland, to the fact that it underwent extensive reshoots in 2023 due to poor test screenings. These reshoots were conducted by Tim Miller rather than Roth, and original writer Craig Mazin had his name removed from the project. All evidence pointed to a flaming runaway train wreck of a production. Nobody was expecting much when the first trailer dropped then, but the general online response was one of mildly pleasant surprise. Sure, it looks like it's cribbing quite blatantly from the Guardians of the Galaxy/Suicide Squad quippy team-up playbook, but the cast interaction seems better than expected, and it's largely captured the look and feel of the game world. Plus, even if reviews don't turn out well, there's a solid possibility Borderlands pulls a Five Nights at Freddy's, and turns a healthy profit at the box office. In the very least, there's a little more optimism about Borderlands' possibility of success now than a few months ago, where most had already written it off completely. Number 1, Rebel Ridge. Rebel Ridge is the latest thriller from the terrifically talented Jeremy Saulnier, and originally started shooting in May 2021 with John Boyega playing the lead role. However, roughly a month into production, Boyega exited for family reasons, while reports swirled that he was dissatisfied with Saulnier's script. Aaron Pierre was eventually cast as Boyega's replacement, but due to pandemic-related issues, filming didn't resume until almost a year later, with shooting finally wrapping in July 2022. Almost 2 years later, we still haven't had a trailer or even a single still image from the film, leaving many to speculate that Saulnier's project had been put through the post-production mangle. While films that languished in post rarely turn out all that well, there are a few glimmers of hope. A test screening report from last summer was highly positive, and the typically self-deprecating Saulnier says he's happier with the end result than he was with Green Room, so that's something I guess. Again, fingers crossed for this one, eh?